Ramesh, like my husband and I, came from Barataria, San Juan area, and therefore we really all started from very humble beginnings. Nobody was really wealthy, and you had to fight your way up. Education-wise, you had to make sure you got your education, and he did that, and he found his way right up to very big positions, becoming a professor at the university, in the Senate, now as chairman of the Police Service Commission. And all of those positions he has excelled, and he has made great contributions to this country, even so that he was given an award last year, and I think he really deserved it.
With courage, tenacity, and strength of character, Ramesh Deosaran has distinguished himself as an independent thinker and people's advocate. Ramesh spent his early years in San Juan with his mother and younger brother. Although he attended modest schools, as a youngster he was conscientious and held a firm belief that education was a vital part of his development. Also very civic-minded, he devoted a lot of his time to involvement in youth groups. He later left his imprint on the Georgian Youth Group and Aranguez Progressive, among many others, and showed early signs as an advocate of the people.
We also got together and put pressure, if that's the word, as youth groups on the government to reduce the voting age from 21 to 18. So those accomplishments, the government really did. It reflected what we call today, and what I will look back and call the golden era of youth movement in this country.
Inspired by great leaders such as Abraham Lincoln and Mahatma Gandhi, Deosaran recalls how he overcame setbacks to continue his education after secondary school.
My next step appeared almost like a vision, because there was really no one around you to point you in an academic direction or to shape up an occupational career for you. My single mother was very diligent, and she tried to keep both my brother and myself alive and well by her own efforts, quite mysteriously. So whatever I thought of doing came as a vision that I knew, for example, that I had to go to university. I don't know how or when. So when this friend was going abroad to study, and that friend was going abroad to study, or that friend even going to UE, I began to ask myself, well, why not myself? But I couldn't afford it. So I ended up working. I was actually a messenger in Port of Spain, Caribbean Engineering Company, but I bought a bicycle to go around town collecting and dropping mail or doing other messages. Then I sold in a store in Henry Street. Hadid is now Bradford. I sold cut cloth to sell, and something I never did before. But it shows you the willingness to work for a living.
Soon enough, he was back in school, but as a teacher.
So incrementally, as I started to teach, fortunate to get a teaching job, the idea of university became more and more compelling in my imagination, inspired as well, as I said, by what my friends were doing. So 2 years after leaving training college, I decided to make a jump for it. Of course, that took a lot of effort because there were a lot of restraining conditions in life, money and other things that I had to forego and make the jump. Canada with 360 Canadian dollars only in my pocket. I worked at a company called Domtar Limited, where you had to lift cement on your shoulders and dump it into a big funnel. And there was no time to wait and rest because the conveyor belt keep bringing these bags of cement at fixed periods, so you had to be brisk and carry the cement into the funnel. That was an example of how students from here who went abroad to study had to work for their education. And he worked part-time as well in a place called Clark Institute of Psychiatry in Toronto, and also the School Board of Education, and some part-time work at the University of Toronto.
Despite working part-time, studying and being in the midst of the burgeoning civil rights movement, Deosaran carefully shaped his academic program.
So I got interested in combining social psychology with criminology, and I began to use Freud, a psychiatric view of the human mind, to explain how people, even though they have in so much, they will still want more to commit white-collar crime. So I began to use psychology to understand the motivation for crime. So I combined those things in my program and courses, and then I came to Trinidad.
Returning to Trinidad in 1977, Dr. Ramesh Deosaran was readily accepted at the University of the West Indies as a professor.
I had just got the PhD in the specialization of social psychology and deviance, and I began to teach psychology, criminology. I established the Answer McCall Psychological Research Center through private funding from Answer McCall. Then I developed the BSc in psychology for the university. So I did use my training not only to teach, but to develop the university. And I established through the Center for Criminology and Criminal Justice and developed the graduate program in criminology there.
After spending over 20 years at UWI St. Augustine, Professor Deosaran joined the University of Trinidad and Tobago, where he also left an indelible mark.
So I established the Institute for Public Safety and Criminology at UTT, and also developed the certificate, diploma, and BSc in public safety, which is a more applied approach to dealing with crime and building public policy.
Well known internationally for his research, policy work, and publications in crime and justice, institutional strengthening, and education, Professor Deosaran is author of over 100 scholarly papers and 14 books. Despite his intense involvement in academia, Deosaran's passion as an advocate of the people never waned.
There is almost an inevitability in getting involved in politics in the broad sense, because when you see what people needed in the community, when you taught children and you think about, well, a career for them, when you go to university and you see what outside life is like, how societies can be built by proper politics, you come back and realize that politics is the key agent for change.
In 1981, Professor Deosaran joined the newly formed Organization for National Reconstruction.
So I contested the elections in Barataria, and I came second. And in politics, there's nothing called second, I contested against Kamaluddin Mohammed, who in those days, everybody knew was difficult to beat because the PNM was well entrenched in different ways. And provided employment in the crash program and so on. So you couldn't break through those things, but what we did through the Organization of National Reconstruction in those days was to break the backbone of the People's National Movement and leave it open for the NAR to come afterwards and capture the goodwill and the contributions we had made in 1981.
He soon realized that he would better serve as a key agent for change outside the political arena.
I quickly realized that my nature, my inclination is not for partisan party politics. And for different reasons, very measurable reasons. So I withdrew from party politics quickly. And I found better shelter and reward in my academic work, research, writing, producing books, and also making commentaries in public quite independently.
Apart from his invaluable contribution to academia, Professor Deosaran also developed a diverse public service record. He has served on several service commissions and made a significant impact as an independent senator for some 15 years.
When I entered Parliament as an independent senator in 1986, up to the end of 1991, I moved several motions. I moved a motion to examine the common entrance results and to see where the defects are in terms of social class deficits, gender deficits, and ethnic deficits. That is to create a more equitable system of output. And that was done, and it also led to the establishment of the Center for Ethnic Studies, which eventually undertook that study. I also moved a motion to re-examine the death penalty and create a clear-cut policy. That too was accepted in Parliament through private motion.
In the Senate, he chaired several joint select committees, debated a wide range of bills, and moved several noteworthy motions.
I took an active part in moving private motions, which thankfully to the government and opposition side were supportive. One in particular was the motion to broadcast live the full proceedings of Parliament. There were news stories captured on television before, but to have continuous broadcast of the proceedings, I moved a motion that broadcast be live. They accepted the motion and set up a joint select committee chaired by Dr. Keith Rowley. Keith Rowley was chairman of the joint select committee that operationalized the motion into the life that it has now.
I found him to be a very effective speaker. He was a good debater, and he was eloquent, he was knowledgeable. Whenever he had to take part in the debate, he was well prepared. He did not indulge in name calling or character assassination. He did not in any way violate the standing orders. I enjoyed listening to him and to hearing what he had to say, because on many occasions I find that I could have learned something from him.
Although his last term in the Senate ended in 2010, Professor Deosaran still serves as an advocate of the people. In 2011, he was appointed chairman of the Police Service Commission, where he continued to share his expertise in criminology and public safety. Best remembered as an independent thinker, Professor Ramesh Deosaran's contribution to academics and national service entered the public records when, in 2013, he received this country's highest honor, the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.